Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. How about yourself?
Good, thank you. I can't see myself. If I look okay, I'm gonna take off my glasses. So,
I cannot see your video just yet. I
oh,
guess probably
okay.
I can see your name in a nice big white font, which looks
Oh, then
pretty. Which
maybe I didn't add it. So let's see if that's. Oh, here we go. Yeah, start video. There we go.
there we go. Yep.
Ta-da! That'll work.
Do you not find the biggest pain with wearing glasses is I could see it is like I can reflect my own monitor in in one.
Exactly.
I cannot work out how to make that
There's
go
really
away.
no way around it. Yeah.
You've took your glasses off. That's cheating.
Yes. Well, I'm an actor, right? I have to look good.
That is true. I've had a little bit of a Courtney Gains sort of festival in my house this week, which has been
Oh
quite
yeah.
good. So I looked at your filmography. There was no way I was going to be able to watch it all in a week. That is not possible. So I thought, right, what do I pick? So I went back to the beginning and watched Children of the Corn, which is, it's you, as far as IMDb says, it's your first on-screen credit.
Absolutely, that is the first.
It's also the first film I saw you in, so I was way back. I was there with you. So I watched that one, and I watched your latest film, Queen Bees.
Okay.
Love that film. I think we all need films like that in the past 12 to 18 months.
Sure.
Nice, happy, human,
Yes.
emotional films.
Yes.
You were a bad character in that though, but
Yeah, but served a purpose, right? Got the group to bond, right? If you're gonna do a cameo, have it be something that at least has some impact,
It does. It has some balls. Yeah, and
literally.
no spoilers, but no, I love that film, and I thought, right, what do I do? So I'm gonna go not necessarily near the middle, but I decided I was gonna go and rewatch and revisit Memphis Belle.
Oh, that's a good one. Good choice.
It's a great film. I saw that when it first came out. So I rented it from the video store, and watching that when I was probably about 18 years old, it was exciting. And it was like, there was fighter planes and it was great. Watching it now, that is a damn scary film.
Yeah. Crazy. David Putnam, who produced it, was actually a child, hiding in the subway or running. He said, I remember when I was like 10 or like 5 or 7 years old, running around in my underwear in the tube. And I'm just like, wow. So this was something that meant something to him because it impacted his, some of his early childhood memories. Crazy, right?
Because I think originally, because I remember hearing about the film in development here in the UK and whatnot. We love our Lancaster bombers in the UK, and I think it was originally going to be about that, but obviously the worldwide scope. We love Hollywood movies, so I think it sort of transitioned to become the Memphis Belle movie that we've seen and love. And that is, I mean, yes, the fighter scenes, the cinematography is very exciting, but that is so much more emotional watching that as an adult now. And obviously we've lived through several wars, so we're kind of more familiar with them now than I believe we were in the late 80s.
The statistics were one in basically if bombers would make 8 runs before they got knocked out of the sky. I mean, that's not good odds.
No.
And remarkably, the character I played, Kazimir Nastal, and his brother both joined underage. They had lost their parents. Their sister signed them up. They were like 16 and 17. One flew 50, one flew 55, 105 missions. If you look at those odds of 1 in 8, and they flew 105 missions, I'm sure that has to be a Guinness record for 2 brothers. I'm sure it has to be.
I would think it would be.
I don't know that it's in the book, but I would imagine it has to be the record. I mean, that's over 1,000,000 to 1 odds. It's just incredible that these 2 young men survived that insanity. I mean, to me, like the scariest part, when you're scared is when you have time enough to think about being scared. And so say I parachuted before I did that movie just because I wanted to put myself on an edgy situation. Going down was scary in its own right and overwhelming, but what was scarier is after you open the parachute and you have all that time you're going down hoping the parachute's going to last. You know what I'm saying?
I thought the scariest bit would have been just before you jump out. But...
It is, but when you're sitting there and you have you're up there for 5 minutes, you're like really, everything's slowed down. You see how high you still are in the air, and you still have to get down safely. But the moment of truth is certainly when you pull that for the parachute to open. That is the moment of truth. But I guess what I'm trying to say, when the characters is when the flak's happening, there's nothing they can do anymore. They can't shoot anything. They just have to go through the flak. and you're just hoping that shrapnel doesn't rip through this aluminum tin can, because that magnesium was nothing. It's very thin. They had as light as they could, and that was the lightest thing they could make them out of the time, magnesium. But the irony of that is, if magnesium catches on fire, it burns to the ground.
Yeah, you are literally in the hands of anybody else but you. I think at that moment,
it's like that moment of truth. That's the way you just have nothing to do but think that I hope we're not getting hit by shrapnel. And the director Michael Keaton Jones had said that his goal was to make Das Boot with wings. I don't know if you remember that German Das Boot. And my favorite part about that movie was the same thing, when they're sitting there having to be super quiet while the charges are coming down, exploding around them. They can't make a noise, and they're like this close to death. You know what I mean? And they're just, and the performances in that movie at that point were just, there was nothing to say, there was nothing to do. You had to be present to, this could be it. And I thought those guys did a great job.
How much of Memphis Belle was you up in the planes? I mean, I'm guessing a lot of it was, on a landed plane in a film set.
To actually go in an airplane once. We got there on the July 1st and on 4th of July, which was obviously odd being in the UK because there was no fireworks going on.
No, nothing.
On the 4th of July, we got to go in a real B-17 while they were doing second unit photography. And there was 2 of them that went up, and half the guys went in one and half the guys went in the other. And that was an amazing experience. And what a great, seeing the Focke-Wulfs dive and seeing how hard they would be to shoot and all of that was, but just the experience of saying you got to fly in a B-17. I mean, my God. The rest of the time, it was, when we filmed it, what they did is they made a complete mock plane. And it was divided into 5 pieces. So they could shoot, whichever, and we had to go up like a flight, on a platform that they could actually, that when the plane's diving and we're like at a 45, the platform did that. I was literally hanging onto the window, or, the opening, to not fall through. That was pretty crazy. And they had that thing up on a 45 like this. But that's how they were able to get great footage, is they were able to, if they only needed the front, they could just shoot from the cockpit, then they could shoot to the middle, then they could shoot, and if they needed to shoot further, they could have all 5, but rarely did they ever need to do that. And they had fake wings that they would just sort of move around and look good for camera. And, it was, and then they had 5K or 12Ks blasting light in, and like it was the sun. And those leathers was probably the most difficult shoot I've ever done. I mean, there was times I almost passed out a few times just because of losing so much water, sweating so badly. Anytime I ever have a tough shoot, I'm always like, it's nothing compared to Memphis Belle.
Was that one of the toughest ones, do you think, Memphis Belle?
Because of that, yeah, because you had the leathers on, plus you had the wool outfits underneath that was things that you plugged in to keep you warm. So it's like almost like a blanket. Imagine having a wool blanket and then a leather coat on top of a wool blanket. And then imagine having 12K lights blasting directly at you.
And then have to perform dialogue and be in character. That's
right.
It is a tough shoot.
Yeah, I've had other tough shoots, but believe me, I think as far as just discomfort, that probably took the cake.
There's so much love for Memphis Belle because I spend most of my time on Twitter just, tweeting and talking movies and stuff with nice people, not the crazy people on Twitter. I tend to avoid those, and there's a lot of those certainly in the past couple of weeks. But I tweeted out that I'd rewatched Memphis Belle. There's so much love for that film. So many tweets came back. Oh my God, that film's amazing. I've not seen it for ages. I suspect I've probably caused a bit of a rewatch sort of wave for Memphis Belle this week.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the movies I'm most proud of to be a part of, without a doubt. And it was good. Whenever you get a chance to do a story about real people that have done something extraordinary, you feel a real obligation to get it right. And I did have a chance to talk with the guy I loosely played. His name was Kazimir Nostal. He's no longer among us, but we flew out 8 of the members with their wives and had a dinner. And Harry Connick got on piano and they all danced with their wives. And it was a brilliant idea from the producer, because we got to see those guys when they got together, and it was like a group of guys who'd won a Super Bowl or something. You know what I mean? They had beaten the jaws of death, and you could just see the glint they had in the eye for each other because of what they'd been through. Like it brought that back for them. That it's almost like they were champions, if you will. And it was something you could not have described or told us. It was something we had to see, and Yeah, they beat the jaws of death. 20. I think they actually ended up doing more than 25 missions, but that's a remarkable number. You know.
It is, but it's. I think the biggest thing for me is realizing how it had gone from being an exciting, action film, watching it as a kid or a teenager, to purely basing put myself in the characters, and it was
Sure, as an
pretty
adult, you see it
pretty
from a
terrifying, a whole different perspective.
much more, much different perspective as we're, from a teenager to an adult, you're going to see it from a much different perspective. But that's the neat thing about film too, right? How you see it. I mean, I think our points of view change greatly every decade. What's important to us, at 10 is not what's important to us at 20. What's not important to us at 30. You know what I'm saying? Like every decade, our priorities tend to change. You know.
I've gone back, certainly over the past 18 months, whenever I get fed up of the real world now, I go back into nostalgia, and I'll watch a lot of the films that I watched as a child. And then some of them I'm thinking, really, I like this film. Why? What's going on? Why did I watch this film so many times?
Yeah, or you missed that political double entendre or things like that as a kid you would not notice as an adult. Of course, you do now.
I felt like a real idiot watching Children of the Corn, because it was. I'm very familiar with that film, and I think I saw it in '85 whenever it hit VHS here in the UK. So I've seen it on and off over the years. And He Who Walks Behind the Rose, I always thought it was a flower, the rose, even though it's. But what's even worse is it's written on walls and stuff in the film, and for some reason, maybe the TV I watched it on way back when was like a 14-inch color portable or something, but it was like, what? How? So that was my stupid moment.
English translation. That's all.
It's just plain stupidity on my part, I think. So but it was the thing with Children of the Corn is, yes, the story's good. I'm a big Stephen King fan. It came out at the time of a lot of my Stephen King favorites, Dead Zone, Cujo, Cat's Eye, all of those. So it was one of the big films at the time. And is the performance by yourself and John Franklin as a double team. It's very, very scary. I could have watched, lots of films with the pair of you in. So
well, to our credit, I know mine has. I'm sure his has too. We're voted in like the top 50, scary characters of all time. No makeup, right? I take some pride in that. Top 10 kids, and I think John Franklin is number 1. So, as far as kid actors go, I think we obviously had left a pretty big impression. It was a great introduction for the two of us to start our careers. That's for sure.
What was it like after? The first thing I've got to ask is, there's a story on the internet which I read, and apparently it's an interview that you gave, that involves a prop knife and a guy called Jeff. Is that a true story?
Jeff Goldberg is his name. He went on to be a very big casting director, cast the TV show Comedy Wings, and was at Paramount for years. Yeah, I pulled a plastic knife on him. I put it right under his throat, and he couldn't tell whether it was real or not. It's something that I would never have the nerve to do now. I know better, but I was young and I was hungry, and I wanted to leave an impression, and I guess it worked. He got on to do many lectures where he would tell that story as what not to do.
Yes.
But I always thought to myself, but they're listening to that going, wait a minute though, he got that job.
I know you're saying don't do it, but it kind of worked.
But it could blow up. It certainly could blow up in your face. Sometimes something like that can work, but it could also get you blackballed from that office for the rest of your career. So it was a risky move, but it was a risky move that paid off. I was young and hungry and felt like I had nothing to lose,
Talking about young and hungry, is it also true that at 6 years old you said, I want to be an actor, not I'd quite like to be an actor? Because that's something else I read about you.
Yeah, you read the interview. That absolutely, that's according to my father, that's the case. And that was the words he used. It was not even want, I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So it was, I stated, like, this is what's up, not a desire, but in fact going to come to pass,
And it did.
And it did. It left enough of an impression on him that he thought whatever I could do to do that, I'll help. And when I finally did start getting into acting classes, there were times they had to scrape the pennies together to keep me in class, but they could see that I loved it. They could see I was getting value out of it. And, the funniest thing is, when we went to see, there was no premiere. We went to see it opening night on Hollywood Boulevard, bunch of friends and family. And I was petrified. First time I ever seen myself on a big screen, and had a little party when I got home. And when everything had cooled down, I was able to ask my dad, so what'd you think? And he said, I had no idea you had that much anger in you. And I thought at the time he meant I was a good actor, but I realized as time went on, he really meant he saw what was coming out of me, having grown up in tough neighborhoods and some of the things I had to deal with in our family. I think he realized, wow, he really let out all that juice that was inside. And that's what acting, one of the things acting affords you the ability to do is you can really exercise, some of your demons,
Is it kind of like the writers should always write what they know, then you use your own demons or your own memories to bring out characters?
I think as an actor, it depends, right? I mean, I'm a method actor, and so that's working from the inside out, as it were. If I can just use what they call the magic of believing and completely believe the situation without having to do that, that's great. That's choice one. But let's say you're in your fifth take crying over some loss and it's just not happening for you anymore. You could think of your dead dog and all of a sudden you can get back into those feelings, and an audience isn't going to know exactly what you're doing, but they're going to look at the circumstances that this was before what was happening in the scene. This is after what's happening in the scene. So they're just going to go with that. You won't know what I'm working with per se. So, it's nice to have a toolbox of things, but you have to know what pushes your buttons. And the thing is it changes over time too. It's always it's always a little bit of a treasure chest, a Pandora's box of what's going to get you where you got to go next. And sometimes things work, sometimes they don't, and sometimes they surprise you how much they do. I did a horror film that the trailer just came out recently called the Bleeding Dark. I call it a horror drama film though, because all my parts are just drama. It's about a father and son we get robbed and the wife gets killed. My son blames me. And then she starts appearing to him, and that's when things start going wanky in the horror, the killing sides. But my character's just depressed. I have the son who's blaming me, and very, very intense. And it gets to a point where my character is suicidal. And there's a moment where I just have to break down. I'm just standing there in my bedroom and I have to break down. I'm like, well, where am I going to find that? Right? He's been building up to this moment. So I've just found an old picture of me when I was a teenager with my parents. I lost my parents at like 19, 20 years old. Don't look at a lot of photos, to be honest. And I had that, and I had a picture of my son thinking which might work. And when I picked that picture up, you can't see what I'm looking. You just know I'm looking at a picture, assuming I'm probably looking at a picture of my wife. And floodgates came in a second. It was like more than I thought was going to happen, So you just never know it could be something as simple as a photo or a song or a memory of your past, You just never know what's going to get you there, or open the wound. Sometimes I call it dropping in, where you just get that place where it opens the wound and then you drop into the character. But now the wound is already accessible. You're already in those feelings. And I honestly don't understand English actors where they say they just act. I just don't understand if they, because obviously there's a ton of brilliant English actors, great English actors. And they're like, it's called acting, my boy. Like, I don't understand how they do it. Like if they can do, if that's really what they're doing and they can do it like on some technical level where they don't have to actually feel anything or something, how lucky for them. Because that's not how I get to what I got to get to.
I think they've probably got their own toolbox. I think it's very English to go, oh, it's nothing to it. It's fine. It's easy. I just do it. Whereas behind the scenes, I think they're like, oh, what am I going to do? Right. I need a toolbox slip, give me a picture of my dog or a picture of pet sheep or something. I would suspect that there's very few people who can just go, right, I'll just cry. Right, I'm crying now, and tears. I've seen it done. I've looked through a camera lens and seen somebody do it, and it blows my mind how they can do it. But I think they've got a toolbox.
I've worked with a few what I would call naturals. Reese Witherspoon being one of them. I'm not saying she doesn't use something, but she makes it look easy, right? She can be talking to you in 1 second, action. It's like a light switch. You know what I mean? And speaking of English, Malcolm McDowell. He's my manager, also represents him. And that guy, I've worked with him a few times. I've never seen somebody so, lack of a better word, cocksure of themselves and their abilities.
Yeah. And
makes it look so easy. It's he almost makes it look so easy that I don't even think it's a challenge, I don't even know why he keeps working. I'm saying to myself, he has enough money. This doesn't seem hard for him to do. What's he getting out of this anymore? But he loves it. He like all English actors, they just want to always be working, If you pay their rate, Doesn't matter if it's a big movie, small movie, you pay their rate and it's a role they like, they'll show up and they'll do their job. You know, they're very professional. But he makes it look so easy. It literally pisses me off. You know,
But
I watch something great at something, I just get mad almost. You know, I get jealous.
obviously I don't know Malcolm McDowell, so I'm not speaking for him. I do know him, but you know, not know him.
Yes.
But so I would suspect he's up all night going, "Oh, what can I do?
I
Let me
don't
get my
think
where's the
so.
pitch?" I'm hoping so for everybody else's sake.
I don't.
Otherwise, you know, he could just do all the roles.
His wife told me a story because I got to go, you know, except because of my manager, I've gotten to go to many events where he's spoken, especially like when the 50th, what was it, the 40th anniversary of Clockwork, and you know, first of all, he'll say anything that's in his mind. Like he's not one to censor himself. You know, he's fearless. But she was telling me this story where it was some slave movie or something. His character was like brutally supposed to be whipping a slave. He'd be talking in 1 second. She said, he'd be like action. I was gonna be like, ah, like he said he could go from normal to that in a millisecond.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing. And then when done, oh, so bad. Ah, yeah. It's just like, you know, just he's gifted, man. He's gifted. You know, I'm sure he has to figure some things out, but I don't think that guy sits there and worries too much. I'll tell you one more Malcolm story because the first time I got to work with him, it was I did the first CD-ROM thing ever made with human beings in it. First a video game with human beings called Wing Commander 3.
Okay.
And he was on it for one day playing this commander. He had this big speech. Number one, he had Mark Hamill rattled within 5 minutes. He was like cracking jokes about his height because Hamill's always has to be on an Apple box. Super nice guy. So he basically he's taking over the set, and he would have this long speech, and he'd be talking about Caligula or something, and then jump into the speech, whoa, Commander, and then he'd be doing a perfectly good speech, and then at the end he would just ruin it with like telling a joke or something and laughing in Mark Hamill's face or something because he knew I could do it again. I could do it again. I could do it again. I never seen a force of nature like this dude on a set. No, he's like I could do this all day. It was like I mean I never seen somebody like that confident.
It must be hard. It must be hard working against somebody like that because I know. I mean, I'm not an actor, so you know what am I to say? But I would just be so. Oh yeah, it's my line, isn't it? I'm too busy watching Malcolm McDowell. Will just be amazing. Oh yeah, it's me, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to shake that. You got to shake that and have your point of view. But I was just standing right next to them on the commander line while he was looking at it. So I just got to watch this thing take place all day, and I was cracking up. I mean, there were times I was in tears with this guy, you know, telling us stories and stuff. But I've never seen anybody take over a set, especially working one day. I've never seen anything like him. He's a force of nature, I tell you now.
He is one of those where, and there's quite a few actors like that, where even if the film isn't very good, their performance always makes it watchable. And Malcolm McDowell is definitely one of those. I'm sure he would admit he's been in films that aren't perfect.
Of course. Like I said,
but he's still watchable. You'd still watch it because he's in it.
He'll just do the job. You pay the rate, he'll do the job. You know, it's that. But yeah, just you know, it's really interesting to watch it work. I got to work with him on the TV show he was on too, Franklin and Bash, and I had a big scene actually with Reed Diamond from Memphis Belle. He was one of the lawyers, and so we got to reunite and clash, and that was really fun. So you know.
So what sort of made you fall in love with the movies? Obviously, 6 years old, you're going to be an actor, and I don't know how many films you would have seen up to the point.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. I can't tell you where that came from. That was just a story I was told. When I decided was when I was 10, when I did my first play. I played the Prince of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and when I came out onto the stage, my life changed. You know, something about being on the boards was very familiar and calming. And when she was saved, I got to be the hero, and the crowd applauded. I was hooked. So I was very clear that I wanted to do it. My mom, interestingly enough, was in the USO entertaining troops in World War II, and started very young. And she was like, the Jack and Coogan stories where the parents would take their money and all that. She didn't want me to be a childhood actor. And I kept bugging her, and she finally put me in a class when I was 13. I hated the class. It was like kind of her style, like, dancing, tights, tap dancing. I came from like the ghetto, man, in LA. Like I was like, what is this? This is not, I was about to quit, and this guy stopped me on the street. His name is Virgil Fry, working actors. He said, I'm an actor. I teach a class. I love your son's look. I'm thinking, who is this guy? He's like, my son's in an audition. his son came out. His name's Sean Fry. In the 70s, he was working a lot. He was in the original. He was the child in the original Fun with Dick and Jane. He was in many movie of the weeks. And I went, wow, his son's working. This guy must know what he's doing. And he became my mentor. I studied with him 10 years. He was my manager for a number of years and broke me into the business and taught me my craft. And that's how it happened. You know?
And then it involves a prop knife somewhere along the way as well.
Yeah, that was I always tell that casting director, Linda Francis, was the first person to believe in me. And she brought me in for some other projects. Of one I had gotten cast in and the movie fell apart. And she was the one championing me to get that job. And that's, when people ask for advice, I say, if you can get 3 casting directors to believe in you, that can, that's the difference when you getting work and not getting work, because if it comes down to say like, you and a couple other guys, or whatever, and they're the ones wants you, they're going to be like, get him, take him. So if you have a few people who believe in you, those doors will open a lot easier.
What was it like after Children of the Corn, a high profile film? Also your first film.
I bring John Franklin into the conversation too, because we both had the same experience. It was shocking. We started getting recognized, but we also started getting recognized in a really crazy way. Like kids would see us and then go running to their parents crying and stuff. That's happened to both of us more than once. Or people coming up to us and saying, I have nightmares about your character. I've heard that many times. I've heard people coming to conventions like, I saw your movie when I was 10, and you scared the hell out of me, and I've been into horror ever since. I'm like, you're welcome. But you realize what I realized was the power of cinema at that point. I realized it's really a powerful thing, and be careful how you use it, and you can do things like a Memphis Belle. I've also had people come up to me and say, so I watched that movie. My father was a pilot in World War II, and he would never talk about it. And we went to see that movie together. And after that, he started telling me stories. I mean, can you put a price tag on that?
No.
Or like a Can't Buy Me Love. I've had people come up to me and say, I was a senior football player looking forward to hazing the freshmen. And then I saw that movie and I couldn't do it. That's when you start to realize the power of cinema. Like you can affect change in a positive way, and that's pretty amazing.
I think a lot of the time, so I grew up pretty much on my own. I just kept myself to myself and had a bit of a crappy childhood and whatnot. So that's when I fell in love with movies and going to the cinema. Right? It was a pure escapism, but it was also how I learned to socially interact with other people. So I would watch films and go, okay, so that's what you say if somebody says this, and that's how you do it. I'm glad I didn't watch John Wick or something when I was a child. That's how you behave. But I learned how to sort of socially grow through watching films.
That's actually a really funny premise for a project. Think about it. That's a really funny premise. And especially like you said, like a John Wick or somebody who has no idea how to interact, and they learn to interact through movies, but sometimes they learn inappropriate ways to interact through movies, and what comes to that. That's kind of remember that movie Being There, where, the character Chauncey Gardner? It's sort of like a version of that, isn't it? If you think about it, that's an interesting idea.
We'll go for it. We'll have it. Yeah.
I was gonna say, maybe we have a movie idea here to develop.
Definitely. But that was me. I would take myself off to the cinema when I was 7, 8 years old and just, watch Superman the movie. I did a podcast last night with filmmaker Neil Johnson and another co-host friend of mine, and we were like, how did we get into sci-fi? We did one about horror films a few weeks back, and I was able to pinpoint the year that I fell in love with movies, which was 1977/78, and that changed me as a person. So Superman, Close Encounters, Star Wars, Cat from Outer Space, that turns out that was one of the things that made me fall in love with movies, which is it's strange choice.
I didn't use your style to interact, because my first hero at 10 years old was Bruce Lee. So it would have been, not that I didn't learn to use nunchucks. I did. I made my own nunchucks and learned to use them, and took kung fu after that for a number of years, a few years. And then I kind of had to drop that. I was like either guitar and acting classes or that. And so I had to let it go. But my son, ironically, is a black belt in Taekwondo. And so it's like carried on to the next generation. He loves MMA. I watch a lot of MMA myself. But yeah, good thing I didn't think the way to interact was open a can of whoop ass.
Yeah, that would probably have got you into a lot of trouble. That would get you into more trouble than a prop knife, wouldn't it, really?
Yes.
I would think.
Not that I didn't. I'm sure I got hit people, even friends of mine with nunchucks more than once, I'm sure.
Yeah. Don't injure yourself, though, Courtney. It won't be good.
Yes, yes.
So I noticed the guitar.
Yes,
And
guitars. Yes.
I only learned probably a couple of days ago that you're a musician as well.
Yes.
And I have to give you a big old thank you. I will tell you why. Because I don't do this for a job, but I do this for, a very serious hobby. And I talk to filmmakers and write things and film things and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
So I love all this. But I have a night job that is just a regular job where it's a customer service thing and lots of grumpy people and all this.
Yes. Customer service is the worst.
So it certainly is. So working from home, which is fine. I have the 2 computers set up. So I'll do my job on one PC and I'll do my own stuff on the other one. And it was a very, very busy night. And I thought, let's prepare to speak to Courtney. What films are we going to watch on these days off? Children of the Corn, Back to the Future, Memphis Belle, Queen Bees. We're going to watch those. And then I saw the mention that you're a musician. I'm like, oh, didn't know that. So I went onto YouTube. So I put one of your music tracks on YouTube and I just stopped doing my job. And I just listened to it for 2.5, 3 minutes, and it chilled me out. And it was good, like half past 5 in the morning on my fourth night shift. And I just thought, you know what, the job can wait. And I just sat back in this chair and just listened to your music for the 2.5 minutes. And
you remember what song it was?
It was bliss. I have it written down here somewhere. There Was a Time.
Ah, thank you. Yes, that's one of the. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's the acoustic record, which is what I'm putting out right now. I have a band too. We can talk about that as well. But so it's called Acoustic Gains Volume 1, and I've put out 2 singles so far. There Was a Time was the first one.
Yeah.
Second song came out last week called Cherished, and the third song is called Let It Ride, which is a blues tune. It's coming out on Monday. But yeah, people's response to There Was a Time has been really nice. And I've had that song around for years. I had that song around since my son was, so in the early 90s. And I've been talking about doing this acoustic record for a long time. And when COVID hit and everybody was home, and I was just like, okay, I've been talking about this for a long time, and I started doing some research, and I found out you could put a home studio together. You really just need this thing called an audio box. You plug it into your computer. It gives you a thing to do your tracks on, and you need a couple condenser mics, maybe even one, if that's all you want, and a stand. You don't even need that technically, and you can start tracking your material. So it's like, I have no excuses. I need to do this. And so I've started doing it, and that was the first song I decided to put out. And so it's really lovely to hear that it actually, if it could, we talk about, a movie could have an impact with song, music as well, obviously, it can put you in all kinds of music. So the fact that you're doing your stressful job and it could bring a little peace to you is, as an artist, all I could ask for. So thank you for sharing that with me.
It brought every bit of peace that I really needed in my job. I like the fact that my job pays the bills. That's quite nice, but the job drives me up. It drives me insane. It's awful.
Customer service is tough, man, because you're getting the brunt of, you're just the messenger, but you don't always get treated like just the messenger.
Yep. So no, thank you very much for putting the song out. And here I am in the UK, listening to it 5:30 in the morning, and it just relaxed me big time. So
that's great, man.
I look forward to the rest of the songs coming out. So where did the musical career come from? Was that before the acting, or was this after, or was it during, or have they always run parallel?
I've never, I've only recently even really having a conversation called career, but I've been doing it as long as I've been doing the acting. I started taking guitar lessons when I was 13, same time I started taking acting lessons, but it was very clear to me that my intention to become a professional actor was the goal. But music's always been just an avenue for self-expression. I just love writing. I've performed, I've had bands. That's okay, it's okay. But the best is the moment you write a song. That's the best. It's a really creative, private moment. Unless you're collaborating with people, and I do that too, and that's fun too. But like, if I have something that's that I need to say, that's burning, that I need to say, or the feeling I'm going through a breakup or something, that I can find a way to articulate. I could find a better way to articulate it through a song. Like the mood of a guitar, or the words, or both. It allows me a way to grieve, and get through stuff. And so that's really how the guitar continued to progress. And then I would do projects, and like I said, this was one that had been on the bucket list for a while. And again, COVID makes you think, hey, I don't know how, who knows, anything could happen. Yeah. And and if there was one motivation on that level, it was just leaving the songs for my son to hear, if nothing else. You know, I have a son who's in his mid-20s, and you know, that's something I would like him to have. You know, he certainly heard it all growing up. He's heard all these songs 1,000 times, probably, to be honest. But that's, you know, not the same as having them there for posterity, you know, later. So,
what is it like sharing songs? Because there is this certain wrong thing where people go, "Oh, an actor's trying to be a musician."
of course.
Oh no.
Of course. That actually has worked to my advantage because the expectations aren't very high.
Oh.
Right? Well, they're not, right? I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying about actors and doing music, you know, you know, so, but that's good. If you don't expect much and then I do something good, you're pleasantly surprised. That can work to your favor. One of the coolest little stories about years ago after Memphis Belle, I was traveling through Europe for a while, and we were in Spain, and we went to eat at this place, and my girlfriend at the time, she started talking to these English guys and this kid from Italy or from Spain. And she mentioned I could do music, and they were looking to take a piss out of me. They're like, "Oh yeah, go get your guitar." And I played the song, and I made them feel so bad that they ended up putting me up in this kid's chateau that night. And then the next day took us flying around in a plane. And then
Nice.
they had a farm in Canterbury when we got back, and we stayed with them again. And it was all because they thought they were gonna have a good laugh, and the music exceeded their expectations.
Yeah.
So it's worked to my advantage. You know, but I understand. But these songs are definitely a little vulnerable, some of them, for me to put out, because they are, some of them, very personal, and it's just acoustic and it's just stripped down. When you got like your band and you're rocking hard and you're maybe you know, some anger or whatever might be there, that's a little easier to shoulder in front of people, you know. I mean, you're loud, so they want to talk, you're going to blow them out anyway, right? So you have but when you got to get there, just you and a guitar, man, that's not easy. I've done it, and I've had beef sometimes with, I remember I did this show at the Mint, which is a well-known club in LA, and it was after a comedy show, and all those people went to the bar, and they were not listening. And about 2 songs in, man, I just called them out. I said, "Hey, take that shit outside if you're going to keep fucking talking. You know, I got to do a set here. You know, don't like the set, take it outside." And then everybody like quieted down and started paying attention, you know. But it can be really hard to just be with you up there, just you and a guitar. That could be a lonely feeling.
Probably a bit like putting a film out and then sharing it with Twitter, really, isn't it? You're like, "Oh no, here we come. Here we go."
Terrifying. It's anytime you put yourself out creatively in there, and now people are going to judge you, whether it's, you know, doing a play or an opening night of a movie or putting your music out. There's a level of that that's absolutely terrifying, you know. But if you, the beauty of that though is if you actually follow through and you do it, you put yourself out there. There's a Time was a good example. The feedback I've been getting, some wonderful feedback like you just shared, makes it all worth it, you know. Like my goal is, like, I can have, if I put out something that one person thinks is good enough to put in their Spotify playlist, you know, that's like the greatest compliment in the world, right? So, you know, so but you won't know unless you face your fears and put it out there, you know.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to go, "Oh, I'm not going to try it because people might not like it." You know, you could have way back thought, "I'm not going to go for this audition. I'm not going to pull out this prop knife and go for Jeff. I'm not going to do that." And then your life wouldn't have gone down the avenue that it has gone down.
Well, you know, I told my son years ago growing up, you know, if you can get 51% of the world to agree with you, you can be president of the United States.
Yeah.
Like, you don't got to get them all. You know what I mean? Not everyone's going to like what you do.
No.
You know, and you have to learn to accept that. But you know, but when someone comes along who does, that's a great feeling. So you mean whatever, you know, this acoustic record won't be for everybody. You know, a lot of people don't even listen to anything acoustic anymore. I grew up in the 70s remembering a lot of the material was acoustic. There are people that had full records that their main instrument was an acoustic guitar that they built around, you know. But those days are kind of long gone. But there's something about playing an acoustic guitar. I love I think writing on an acoustic is the way to go, and it's the ultimate test. They say if you can write a song on piano or acoustic guitar with nothing else and it holds up, you've written a solid song. And I think that's fair. Yeah. And from there, you can, you know, if you want to make it into a band project, you can. You build on it, you multi-track and all of that. But if it doesn't have the bones, just like a movie without a good story, right? You got to have a good story. And what are you doing? You know?
I think for me personally, I listen to all sorts of music, a lot of movie scores. But I think you take one person, one acoustic guitar, and it is, I think you said it yourself, it's very personal, very vulnerable. One of the CDs that I'm constantly listening to is Snuffy Walden's soundtrack to The Stand, the Stephen King miniseries, which is pretty much acoustic guitars. And that's relaxing. I think one voice, one acoustic guitar can just be sort of spiritually what we need, I think, at the time. It's like just calms us down and takes technology out of the way.
Yeah, exactly, because it's natural. It's actually a natural sound. It's not electronica. One of my favorite artists is Janice Ian. I don't know if you're familiar with her. No. She in the 70s, she got so big so fast. It was like, where do you go from there? She wrote this song. I mean, she wrote this record called In Between the Lines, and she wrote a song called 17, which you may have heard. It's like kind of like the Ugly Duckling theme for girls. Okay. It was just a huge song. But she was like hailed the female Bob Dylan at one point. I mean, like and she was young. So it was like really, where do you go from there? You know? But that album is just, it captured like whatever teenage angst and loneliness I felt better than any album, in my opinion, ever has. And it's so painful that I got to see her play once finally after years of her not touring, and she only played 17 because she knew we all wanted to, it's like that's like the song everybody comes for, but she wouldn't play any of the rest of the record. Oh, because it's just like she doesn't want to go back there. That says she channeled something. She don't even want to channel it no more. You know what I mean? She's like, nah.
It's like, it
was an amazing thing to get to actually see her live, and she's one of my heroes. And I've recently looked, she has some stuff online, and she's like, if someone asks, who would you like to meet at this point? And if she's getting up there now, she's not, she's got like 70 or something, 60s. I'd love to meet her sometime. And I'd be probably deathly afraid to play a song for her. I don't know if I could handle it. That's how much I admire her work.
I think she would love it. What do you reckon? One day, I'll when you do it, let me know that you've played it for her, and let me know what you thought. But I would definitely check her out. I always like recommendations.
She's brilliant, man. If you hear her music, you're just like, I mean, her vocals, her songwriting, she is good, man. I saw a thing she just did. She did a thing at Berkeley College, a residency, and the first thing you have to do is do a talk. And she was by far the most truthful artist I've ever seen give a speech. I mean, she talked about things that artists don't talk about, like what it's like the pressure of performing, what it's like to look in the mirror before you go on and go, I'm fat. And then, you got to go play in front of 8,000 people. These are the things people don't talk about. You know what I mean? This is, the pressures that everybody coming at you that wants something from you, like the pressures to everybody when you break, everybody, your songwriting partners can't wait for you to get back to Nashville so you can write some more songs. Why? Because they're going to make some more money, right? It's like, and these are the things that people don't talk about. And, I've experienced that on a small scale, and it can be intense when you're young to have all that happen, when you're working so much that you start to lose yourself. And it did happen to me a little bit. I had to take a step back for a while right after Memphis Belle, kind of get my head together, because I tell this story, it got to the point where I couldn't, because I was doing character work and I was doing method work, physicality work, and I could not there was a point where I could not remember how I walked.
Wow. Okay.
And that scared the hell out of me. Like, I felt like I was losing my identity, and nobody in my camp gave a rat's when I was like, I'm a little scared. I think I need to take a break. They're like, "Oh, poor Courtney, he's working too much."
Yeah, bless him. All the famous people he's working with. Because actors and creative people aren't real people. They don't have problems. They don't run into speed bumps.
And these were people that that on my team that I felt close to. They just didn't get it. And I had to step back for a little bit and go on. That's part of why I traveled through Europe right after Memphis Belle and stuff. And everybody else got back as soon as they could, because they knew career opportunities were going to show up. It was a big film to be in. I went through Europe. I traveled to India. I felt like I had to get my head straight again, and I don't regret it. I don't regret it in that regard, because it was, I can understand how, like, musicians, why they end up doing drugs or things like that. You're performing for all these people who are adoring you, and then you go to a hotel and it's just you and it's empty. I don't think a lot of people can handle that. I think it's a lot for people to handle.
And I think most people will look at it and go, "Oh, is he depressed? Why? What's the matter with him? It must be bad having all that money and being able to fill stadiums." Oh, no sympathy whatsoever. They don't realize the baggage.
When you watch those breaking to the bands and stuff like that, which are actually fun to watch, what you see is the label running these artists into the ground.
Yeah.
And what do they have the road manager doing? drugging them up, drinking them up, throwing girls at them,
Yeah.
right? Keeping them distracted, keeping them high, and keeping them on the road making money. And, you know, that's why a lot of these bands don't last. They, you know, 3-4 years of constant touring. And when you're not touring, make a record and then tour it again and make a record. People burn out, you know, and the label's like, their point of view is, hey, you know, they're hot today, but they might not be hot tomorrow. Let's milk this for every cent we can, you know?
It's a money train, isn't it? And then the people behind the scenes are like, well, we'll just get somebody else and we'll make lots of money with them. And
exactly.
these poor artists are just left.
On to the next.
Yep.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And that's what you hear stories. And like a lot of times these big bands are like staying in some palatial place, but they don't own it. And then when the hatchet comes down, they're like, you got 3 days to get out. They got no money. You know, they thought they were rock stars and they're living the rock star life, but they don't have the foundation to go with it. You know, when you're young and, you know, you're 20, you're not thinking about any of that stuff, but these label guys are. And a lot of managers took major advantage of artists, you know, and you know, that's unfortunately, artists are not the smartest business people. That is for sure.
No, I would think it's very easy to sort of get used to the compliments and get used to the trapping, you know, have this and have that, and there's a limousine, and all this sort of stuff. You're like, wow, this is amazing. I'm not going to ask why they keep giving me this stuff. I'm just enjoying the fact they're giving it to me and go along with that train.
Exactly. You know, of course, how you would in your 20s, you wouldn't think twice. But you see with athletes too, like how many athletes who make just godly amounts of money go broke, especially NFL players. Like their statistic of going broke afterward is so high that now they're conducting classes for them to tell them how not to blow all their cash. Because you give that much money to a 20-year-old kid who's never had any money before, they don't know what they're doing, you know. Or how many people have won the lotto and their life ended up being more miserable. And I mean, people who've been murdered, people who've won the lotto have been killed for their money. It's pretty good.
Well, it's a very strange world, isn't it?
Well, you have to be able to handle it. I think that's what it comes down to. When you have this stuff come at you, it's like, how much of it can you handle? And, you know, that's why I said, I haven't had, you know, the hugest level of success, but I've had enough where, you know, I've seen it and it's a lot to handle. It's a lot to handle.
I think looking at your filmography, you've had a very steady success. So I think that is in some ways better than, you know, reaching the top of Mount Everest and then where do you go from there? Your career it's in its hundreds now for credit. I actually looked up, and this is, I don't know whether you'd looked it up or not, but there is only 3 years since 1984 where you didn't have a film come out. 3 years in that whole gap where you've not had a film.
Two of them are right when I'm talking about taking that break. I mean, I traveled, then I started a band, I started a production company, and then I got married and had a kid. And that's when everything shifted. Once I had the kid in 92, I was like, okay, I got to go back to work and I got to make money. And that's when I started, you know, doing a lot of guest stars and got, you know, it was like a lot of pressure on my back to, you know, be the provider now. It was a different mindset. You know, I'm dad now. I got to bring in the bucks. I got to keep the rent and food on the table, you know, change my mindset completely. But yeah, it is, in hindsight, now that we step back and look at it 35 years later, it's absolutely a blessing. I mean, I could barely handle what I had when I was, you know, in my teen cinema run. If it had been bigger than that, I don't know. The only thing that kept me grounded at all was the work itself. Like I was in a class 5 years before I broke. So many people in the class I was in, within a year they were working. It was a very good class, and they stopped studying. But, you know, I studied those 5 years. I paid my dues. But then when I got work, I didn't stop studying. I studied with my mentor for another 5 years. Then after that, I've always either taught and or studied. And that, you know, the fame, fortune, all that stuff, you know, and the perks you get. I mean, there's all these, you know, there's different levels of that. But really, if you just keep your eye on Hollywood, you know, LA, well, it's all there, man. You know, any pit trap, whatever, it's all there. But if you just keep your eye on the ball, which is the work, which is what got you there in the first place, while you were doing it in the first place, you know, you'll be okay.
And I think you are okay. You know, all of the roles I've seen you in, and I will probably carry on my Courtney Gains film festival thing. I was limited on time and I managed to fit in.
You'll find some stinker movies along the way then, my friend, but that's okay.
I'm sure you're really, really good in them, but it's you know, I think sometimes you need a stinker movie to make the next one an amazing movie.
You know,
So
you're
that's the
not
way I
always
look
going
at
to
it.
get a studio film or anything like that. I've done a lot of independent films, you know, where they had limited budgets and they did the best they could, you know, but you got to keep working, right? Got to stay busy.
Hmm.
So,
So I'm guessing people ask you about Children of the Corn the most. I would think
yeah.
maybe that's not true. Maybe followed by Memphis Belle. But what
The
of your
Burbs.
the Burbs, which I
Yeah.
rewatched on a 120 odd inch projector. We bought a projector at the start of the pandemic, so we have like an entire
Nice.
wall, and we sat and
Nice.
watched the Burbs on that. But what are some of your other films where you think, you know what, people don't mention that as much, and they really should? What
I
are a
think there's
couple of
just,
examples of that?
the third film I did, Lust in the Dust, I think is a pretty damn funny comedy.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're a Divine fan, by all means, watch it. But even if you're not, it's pretty damn funny.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good actors in that and a lot of good performances. I always tell people I worked for 2 weeks on it. I stayed another 2 weeks just so I could watch people of like, you know, Caesar Romero, you know, work. I mean, you know, so that was a great film for me to do as my third film, to work with a bunch of veterans and see what that was about, you know. And now I'm that guy. It's pretty funny. But I would say that one. I would say one that, you know, talking about indie films, I produced a film that I was also in called Benny Bliss and the Disciples of Greatness.
I was going to mention that. Yep.
Rock and roll road comedy with an anti-technology bent, which, you know, I have some of that, and that's where kind of that happened. But that was a lot of fun to make. The director, who's also in it, Martin Gigi, mm-hmm. a very, very good musician as well as director. And he plays with Gibbons from ZZ Top, you know, now. So that tells you, if you're playing with Gibbons, you know, one of the great blues guitar players alive still to this day, you know you can play. But that movie, I got to write 4 or 5 songs in it. Everything we perform is live, so there's no punch-ins on vocals or anything like that. The movie's pretty zany. It's not the perfect film, but there's some really cool moments in it. And we got to improv about 70% of it. So that was really fun as an actor. But the performance at the end that takes place in the vortex in the desert, that was probably the most without a net as an actor I've ever been. We had rehearsed all the songs, but we'd never rehearsed them in order. And I had all these introductions in between songs. That was like 30 minutes, you know, like a real performance. It was like a full set with all this stuff. And we did that twice. And the coolest compliment was the extras that we brought in were, after the first set, were saying, "This is the most fun we've ever had on a set." And I said, "This is the first time we've ever done a performance." They were like, you're lying. That can't be possible. And I'm like, no, these guys are all pros behind me, you know. But that was like the moment of truth in that movie, where if we didn't deliver that ending, which we've been building to, there was no movie. But it was like, it wasn't like, oh, little take cut. It was like 30 minutes. I've never been on a film where I shot that long, you know, in one take. You know what I mean? Just keep going. It was crazy, but it was really, really fun.
Because that was a film I'd noticed going through your filmography, thinking, right, which of Courtney's films I'm going to watch. And then I saw you had the writing credit. I'm like, oh, let's look at that one. And I saw Martin Gigi's name on it. And I spoke with him in a similar conversation to
you're kidding.
Late last year about Paradise Cove.
Oh, you're kidding.
He had all the instruments and, you know, stuff behind him. So this is like a thing, but nicest guy.
He's legit, man. He's a legit musician. How we bonded is I was in this entertainment basketball league called the NBAE. It's sort of sponsored by the NBA for celebrity stuff. And there's so many crazy egos on these basketball leagues. It's like hilarious. You know, like they're like big agents or big musicians, but some of them are like, you know, their egos are like out of control. So we were cracking jokes about stuff, starting to know each other. And he was like, I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Burlington, Vermont." I said, "That's where Fish is from. I know Mike Gordon." He's like, "Dude, I know Mike Gordon." Like, you know, he came from that same jam band experience in Burlington, Vermont. They were all trained by this college professor there who was like a heavy duty music theory guy. And that's what started that whole jam band phenomenon in Burlington. And Fish was just the band that broke out. And so we bonded over that. And I was doing some music, and he came in and played keyboards, and he slayed. And we started talking more, and we were talking about maybe doing like a spoof video of this character Benny Bliss with those songs. He kept taking notes. I said, "Dude, it sounds like you're making a movie." And he's like, And sure enough, we got it together and we made a movie, and it was crazy fun.
And you became a director as well. You directed a short film. So where did Courtney Gains, the director, come from?
Yeah, so it was really just sort of out of necessity. And why I say that is, so my girlfriend, who's also a manager, wanted to write some things maybe some of her clients could be in. And one was this guy named Tommy Sheeter, who I was also really good friends with, that I kind of brought to her, that I felt was should be out there, but he wasn't. And he had this run of like 5, 6, 7 things he did, including this short. And then he passed away the beginning of last year. So I'm really glad we got to be part of fulfilling his dream. And the movie's since been in like 15 festivals and won Best Ensemble and a couple and Best Director, which has been more than I expected. It's a comedy, and she just came up with an idea that was really funny, and I just made her sit down and write it. And it's basically about the symptoms, about this guy who his job is to diagnose symptoms, but he's always like inappropriately doing it wherever he goes. Like at a party, he sees something, he's like, oh, you could have this, you could have that. And this woman he likes has this bruise. He tells her to get it checked out. Long and short of it, she does, and he ends up saving her life, and it kind of gets them together. So it's this cute little comedy. But I said, who better to do it than me, you know? And I said, I'll show you how to produce, because I've done more of that. And I felt I could do a sitcom, or not sitcom, but a comedy, because it's less about camera and more about performances. So everybody in the movie are friends of ours, basically. And it came out cute. And we've had our good festival run. Now we're looking for a platform, so now people can actually just go see it. So that's how that started. There's some talk of maybe doing editing, directing a piece of an anthology horror project, which would be great. Again, not a whole film, you know, something I could take on. So I gotta read the script and see what I like, but we're in talks about that. So maybe this directing thing is going to happen. It's not a have to happen for me at all. But I do like producing, but it's very difficult. You know, you're responsible for everything, tons of pressure. But when you pull a good team together and it comes together, it's a very gratifying thing to see the end product, you know?
You're a man of many talents, Mr. Gains. You really are.
Wearing many hats, man.
Many, many hats. So I've loved all the hats you're wearing so far. So I look forward to all the different hats that you're going to wear as well. And I will I'm going to watch a whole bunch of your films that I'll not necessarily wasn't familiar with.
Definitely want to hear what you think of Benny Bliss. Like I said, it's pretty out there. I'm not saying you aren't, but I tell people, you know, it's not a bad movie to have a glass of wine with, or if you get baked, it's a stoner movie every step of the way. So.
I think the strongest thing I'll have is probably a can of Iron Brew or Pepsi. I don't tend to drink myself, but I'm sure I will still enjoy the film, but I will let you know. But
it's that kind of movie, though, for sure.
Good. But and finally, sort of thanks for everything you do over the years. As I'd mentioned, I grew up watching lots of films. Children of the Corn was a benchmark in my film watching. Back to the Future, one of the most beloved films of all time. And you know, if I wasn't speaking to you this week, I might not have gone back and rewatched Memphis Belle over the past couple of days. So thank you for that, and thank you for giving me those 2.5 minutes to just purely relax while I listen to your music. So I look forward to more of that coming out, Courtney.
Did I talk about the things that are coming out? Did we do that?
No, you can now, though. I'm eager to.
We've been having just a chill conversation. I forgot, you know, what I've done and haven't done. So right now, a movie called Queen Bees is out, and it's a comedy. And I only have a cameo in it, but I got to work with Ellen Bernstein, Anna Margaret, Jane Curtin, and Loretta Devine. And that's like what a group of iconic women to get to work with. That was a joy.
And it is a funny film, but it's also a very emotional film.
Yes,
you know,
it
works
comedy, but it's really talking about real issues, which we started with that, right? So yes, so that's out, and then the next movie is a little indie I did called River. That's you have to call sci-fi because of some things, but it's really not like in space, and it's not CGI, but it's a cool film. And then that's coming out July 13th, and then a movie called Charming the Hearts of Men is coming out August 13th. And that's a movie set in the 50s, and it's about civil rights and about the woman who had a hand in getting the word women put in the civil rights. So it's kind of really cool. I'm proud to be part of that. And another movie I'm in called Await the Dawn just came out on Prime Video this week, and that's a horror film. Got Dee Wallace, Vernon Wells, kind of a crazy fun ride.
Yeah.
And let's see, am I forgetting something? Movie called The Bleeding Dark, that horror film. That's on. You can check the trailer out now. I don't know when it's coming out. And I did a BET show called Tales. That's an anthology, 10 episodes a season. I did episode 3. I get to play a really bad cop in that. I'm looking forward to seeing how that performance came out. I'm not sure when it's coming out this season though. So it's like a lot of stuff got put, on hold through COVID, and now it's all coming out. And Gravitas Venture picked up all 3 of those films that I was in. So God bless them, because now they're all coming out on theatricals and VOD. So couldn't really be happier. It's hard to get a theatrical release nowadays. So
like Gravitas are a name I'm very familiar with. I do get a lot of their sort of press releases and see a lot of their films coming out and stuff. So they're definitely one of my favorite labels.
Yeah, well, I think they're being a champion of the little movies that could right now. So God bless them, man.
And a huge shout out to Queen Bees, which was amazing. I didn't know what to expect. I knew what it was called. I knew that you were in it somewhere. Beyond that, I didn't know anything about it. I sat down and put a big old smile on my face because it's a charming film with a great cast as well. So,
yes.
But I shall leave you to your day, Courtney. Thank you very much for taking some time out to have a conversation with me. I will be nervous afterwards going, oh my God, I've just spent near enough an hour chatting to Courtney Gains. That is amazing. Goes on my wonderful geek list of cool things that I've done in my life. But just, I really, really appreciate it.
And a pleasure talking to you. You're going to have to go on my Facebook or whatever, or get an email or whatever, and let me know what you think of Benny Bliss.
Definitely. I'm going to seek it out as soon as possible.
Love it, hate it. Just, you can tell the truth, but I got to hear what you think now.
I will experience it, and I'm sure I will let you know, Courtney.
All right. Sounds good. Pleasure.
Take care. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.